For the past few months, I've been working on a podcast called Event Stars to help people in the events industry, and I've had some really fantastic opportunities to interview some superb people from the industry and beyond. But like many things at the moment, now is not the time to launch it. Now is the time where we need to come together and support each other for what is going to be truly difficult times ahead. So I've been switching it up a little bit while my business is pretty much at zero, and decided to do a podcast that can help people cut through the noise and help businesses hopefully grow and learn during this period. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that something good can come from it. If you've got any suggestions, then feel free to get in touch. Hello and welcome to Opportunity in Isolation. Now, being in events, it's been quite a challenging time for the industry, to say the least. For my business in particular, we've lost all of our summer trade pretty much. And at this point in time, in mid-May 2020, we don't know how things will play out for the rest of the year. So in this episode, I had a discussion with a few industry leading figures to help gain a better understanding of what's going on from the ground up. Joining me in no particular order was Lucy Brazier from Marcham Publishing. Now, Lucy is the CEO of Marcham, which publishes Executive Secretary Magazine, a global training magazine dedicated to the professional development needs of senior and aspiring administrative professionals. Lucy is one of the world's leading authorities on the administrative profession and works with the best trainers of executive assistants from around the world to deliver the most up-to-date and current training in the market. We also had Daniel Skermer, who is the founder of the PA Forum and West Midlands PA Awards. His organisation has 795 personal, executive and virtual assistants as members, who have attended a number of different events that the PA Forum has hosted across the Midlands. Now into their fourth year, they've successfully hosted 2 learning and development conferences for business support professionals and 2 award ceremonies to recognise and celebrate PAs, EAs and VAs across the region. We also had Chris Peacock, who is a director and co-founder of Conference Care, which he formed in 1995 and has grown to a team of over 50 event specialists, providing a range of conference, events and meeting management services to a mainly corporate client base. He has a direct responsibility for the sales, finance and procurement areas of the company, and is a former chairman of the HBAA, where he served as a board member of the association for over 8 years. And finally, we had Torie Richards, who is the founder and owner of the Partnership Collection, which is a private lifestyle and concierge service, which includes a private members club arranging high-end social events, as well as offering concierge services. Now, this was a great conversation and quite insightful, especially if you're looking for some tips on how to stay connected with your audience or customers while your business is not operating in normal conditions. We discussed a number of topics, including the extent to which the events industry has been affected by the current pandemic, the future of the events and hospitality industry, using innovation to stay relevant during lockdown, and opportunities that will come from a post-COVID world. As always, I hope you find it useful. Happy listening and enjoy. First of all, thank you everyone for joining me today. As events industry professionals, either directly or indirectly, we're all on the front line here. Now, I remember 2008, but this is completely different in terms of scale, in terms of the impact that this has had directly and instantly to the events industry. Could everyone just give me a brief indication about how COVID-19's affected your business and your line of work, and maybe just give a very quick introduction to what you do as well? Do you want to start with yourself, Chris?
Hi, I'm Chris Peacock. I'm director of predominantly venue finding and live events agency called Conference Care. I founded it just over 25 years ago with one other guy. We're now, company's about 50 employees, split over England and also offices in Scotland. And we have mostly a predominantly client base of corporates. So we tend to do I would say, more boring side of events, which is business to business, conferences, so on and so forth. In terms of how we've been affected, as you know, we see this across the corporate events industry, is that it's been decimated at the moment. That'd be the phrase I would use. Bigger corporates, I think, as customers, are always more cautious in terms of what they feel they're allowed to do. So we've had just a massive dropout over the last 4 weeks, and for the foreseeable future, and I now count the foreseeable future in weeks rather than months or years. Certainly to the end of the year, massively impacted by the whole thing.
Torrie?
My name's Torie Richards. I'm the MD of the Partnership Collection. We are predominantly a private members club, but rather than being venue-based, we're experience-based. So we tend to be in the higher end of luxury events. We've got a travel concierge company, a private events department, but our core business is the club. And so people buy a membership, and rather than going to a venue, they get together through experiences. So things like anything from Ascot to dinner on the Royal Yacht Britannia to Michelin star restaurants, just things that they like doing. So, from our perspective, yes, we have had to postpone a lot of the events. We should have been taking clients to Milan. This weekend we should have been in Dublin, taking them to Dublin. I think what we've done is we've postponed everything that we've done. We've started to look at if we had to take every large-scale event out of the calendar for the rest of the year, what else can we do with customers? So, yes, every single income stream that we've got has just completely ground to a halt. There's nothing gone in or out of the bank account for probably about 3 weeks. But I think for us, it's just been about thinking in a completely, totally and utterly different way about how we can keep the customers engaged. I think we are really lucky because we've got a long-term relationship, so they're members of a club. So we know them intimately and we know them really well, and we've been able to communicate with them almost on a daily basis.
And what about yourself, Lucy? Because you work with a lot of PAs in your magazine. How are they finding it?
So I'm the founder and CEO of Executive Secretary magazine, which is a global publication that is a training magazine for assistants. So yes, I'm working with them and we're talking to them about events that they're organising, but also we organise events ourselves. So we have 5 major conferences a year, right the way across the world: London, Johannesburg, Australia, New Zealand, America, and we organise 60 training events as well. So for us, it has been a case of pivoting, I think. We're really lucky that we do have some other revenue streams because our magazine is subscriptions based, and we started it in the last recession as a way to bring training to people that probably couldn't get training face to face at that point. And we were actually in a situation where we had to get moving really quickly because we had a major event in London 2 weeks after this thing hit. So it was a case of having to make an announcement that was being postponed. And I'm now wondering whether we postponed it too quickly because we're looking at September being the new date for that. And the way it's going, I can't see that is going to be an option. But we lost 160 grand's worth of business out of 2 events absolutely immediately. And I'm also a speaker and trainer myself. I went to 42 countries last year and spoke at 183 events. So I personally lost about 50 grand's worth of bookings almost immediately. So it's been really interesting. But we have pivoted. I think you innovate your way out of this situation. And we went straight online and found ways that we could deliver content in a really one-to-one sort of way, as well as doing a global event, which is going to be a learning event for the assistants. and pulled in all the contacts that we've got, because we work with all the best trainers in the world for assistants and have got them in a lineup over 48 hours. And actually, yes, our budget has been decimated like the others, but equally the first thing I did was to go to my budget and work out exactly how much we absolutely needed to spend on a monthly basis, got rid of all the surplus stuff that we didn't need, and now my team totally knows how much we really have to bring in on a weekly basis in order to make sure that we survive, and that's important.
And Daniel, you're in a slightly different situation because you're working for a venue and you've also got your own brand, which is the PA Forum as well. Do you want to tell me a little bit about how it's affected you on both sides, please?
Yeah, so my name's Daniel Skermer. I've worked in the hospitality and travel industry for 15 years. I'm a venue sales manager in Birmingham. I'm currently on furlough, so I was furloughed 2 weeks ago, and I'm really grateful that I'm in that position. And I know there's been a lot of redundancies made in our industry, which is really sad. I think the key word that a lot of people have used is postponed, which is really good. I think that's really positive for the events industry, because rather than use the word cancelled, postponed has been quite, it's almost as if, and I think somebody said the other day, it's not the greatest word, but the whole thing's been paused. And we're hoping that those big events and those small scale events will all come back again, either later in the year or next year. But with my other hat on, I'm the founder of the PA Forum, which is a West Midlands based networking group. So we run networking events across 3 regions in the West Midlands for personal and executive assistants to meet and network with each other and grow their networks, their contacts, utilise opportunities for training. We work a lot with speakers. I'm really pleased Lucy's on today because she spoke at our annual conference twice and is due to speak again in September this year. We also run the now what's called West Midlands PA Awards, which is due to take place in July, and Chris is a headline sponsor and has been for the past 2 years. Torie was a category sponsor last year and supported us. So those 2 big events are on hold at the moment. We don't know. We've still got the dates held. I haven't signed any contracts yet with the venues, which I suppose is a good thing because there might be that flexibility now for me to move those dates. But the question that has kind of remains in my mind at the moment is, what with social distancing, what will the events industry look like with that in mind? Will people want to go back into big, massive, large-scale events, or will events be more virtual now? How will that kind of work in the future? And that worries me because A, for the forum, but also B, for my primary role, which is venue sales, conferencing, events, etc.
Definitely. And 2 things that have come to mind from what we've just heard there. Chris, the word you used was decimated, and Daniel and Lucy, and you've been saying postponed. So, okay, there are a lot of people saying that events are going to be postponed and they'll hold off for maybe 6 months, a year. But the fact is we don't know. And that's where I guess the decimated comes in, because if there's no cash flow, then what will happen? I mean, Chris, could you maybe address that, please, first of all?
Yeah, I think a lot of, from my side, from agency side, I think, furlough as brought in by the government has been a real lifeline to some, but it's a temporary lifeline. And the problem isn't now. Well, some people have problems now, but we came to this situation off a very good year previously, so we're in a good position in the bank. We're in a good position in cash flow, and some of our staff are on furlough, which is helping us through. The problem's going to come is that it's not going to be like pushing a button and all big events are back. And I just think it's too optimistic to think that that's going to take a short amount of time. And I believe the more problems will come in once we're starting to see some return from isolation, in that there are going to be limitations on the scale of events that you're able to hold. And so everything's going to be scaled down. And therefore, what are all companies like myself going to do in that instance with bringing people back? Because I can't have a £100,000 a month payment payroll to my staff when you might be turning over, a small proportion of that. And plus, with the events that we're looking into, all of the larger ones are then going to be going into 2021. Most of the work we do, rather than being fee-based, is commission-based with the venues, which is a perfectly good system. It works great. But what it means is that we don't get paid until the event takes place. So for the bigger things coming in, that's all great. So what I'm hoping for as a business will happen is that we will see a phased return back from furlough. I think the government was well aware of the impact on a lot of businesses, not just businesses like us, in that we're going to see a prolonged effect of COVID-19 rather than it being an instant, okay, we're back to normal. I think normality will return. I think large-scale events, bigger events, people like to attend, they enjoy them. Sure, there will be a virtual aspect to those, I suspect, more so as we go forward. But I think that change, that will only really change back probably maybe a year, 18 months, maybe only once a vaccine is widely available.
So Lucy, from your, I guess, client's point of view, the people who subscribe to your magazine, the PAs, I mean, have you heard anything from them in terms of when they might be looking to hold their events, or are they just completely on hold at the moment?
It's very much the same, I think, as Chris was just talking about. Events that they had got running, they have managed to postpone on the whole with hotels. I think that the worry is that when this does all come back, there are going to be so many people fighting for the same spots, because we're all going to want to get into these hotels that we had our events postponed with. And, what are the slots actually going to be? But also, I think, for us, we hold a whole heap of international events. And I was reading an article this morning from Lufthansa saying that they don't think that flights are going to get back to normal until 2023. So, it's great having large-scale events, but are people actually going to be able to get there? I think we're going to have to look probably at a lot more regional events and local events. So this is good news for Dan when it comes back, I think. But, for our point of view, it is totally remodelling what it is we do, because the majority of our events have people there from maybe 25 countries. And I think for the assistants that are organising international events, that is also going to be a big problem.
Torrie, you heard Lucy saying there about travel and maybe not being able to travel until 2023 in a normal fashion as what we saw it 6 months ago. How do you think that will impact your business, and are you making any provisions for that?
I think what we've been doing, yes, I do. I think people are going to be a lot more cautious in everything that they do, let alone travel. But I do think that it could see a massive resurgence in UK-based holidays, where we were looking at, the things that we've got planned for our members this year was, shopping in Milan and truffle hunting in Tuscany and things like that. We're now looking at things like taking them over on a Sunseeker yacht from Southampton over to the Isle of Wight to Jersey, places like that. So there is so many luxury hotels and weekends and parts of the country that so many people have never even seen because they've spent their whole life going abroad for their holidays. So I think that there could be a massive resurgence in UK holidays. I think that parents will think about doing different things with their kids, I don't know, crab fishing in Cornwall rather than sitting on a beach in Turkey. So I think that you have got to be much, much more diverse in the way that you think. And certainly what I'm doing is planning. I remember my business coach saying to me for the last 6 months, you need thinking time. And I used to say, thinking time. I think about my business from the minute I get up in the morning till the minute I go to sleep at night. And he said, no, you're not thinking, you're not strategizing. And it's given me, I mean, honestly, I would not wish this on anybody or any business, but I know it will be the best thing that's ever happened to us as a business, because it has made me, you talk about thinking outside of the box, we're thinking outside of the circle. We are completely diversifying in every area of the business.
Excellent. And one of the things that have been mentioned is virtual events a lot. Daniel, do you have any concerns from Vox's point of view that some of the smaller meetings might not happen now because people are becoming so used to using Zoom? So whereas before someone might have done a trip down to London to have a board meeting, now they'll say, well, let's just do it on Zoom. It's going to save everyone time, money, and it's going to be better for the environment.
I think that's important. I think a lot of people will think about the environment a lot. I was just watching the news beforehand and they said, 9% of people think that life will go back to normal. The rest of people want to change something. And I think environment and, CSR policies and budgets, companies are going to have to rebuild here, and they're not really going to have the budgets to throw at loads of extravagant meetings. But I do think it is important that people do still meet at face to face. I think we need to have that interaction as human beings, and I think that sometimes the best minds in a room can get stuff done, which is and a lot quicker. With Zoom, sometimes I think it's very difficult to have, we can hold meetings successfully on Zoom, but sometimes you hold back a little bit because you think, I don't want to interrupt that person, and then the opportunity might have gone, or etc. Then there's the follow-up afterwards. And yes, it's great in a virtual world. I mean, I was a holiday rep for years, so I'm always used to being in front of people, and I used to be on stage. I run networking events for PAs, so I'm used to being in front of people all the time, and this is driving me absolutely crazy. But there's nothing we can do. Zoom has helped me keep in touch with our members. So we've been hosting Zoom meetings 3 times a week for 20 to 25 PAs to come on. And also, again, with different personalities, there may be people that don't engage as much on Zoom, so they might be quite introverted naturally, which is absolutely fine. But you only have to have, it's the same in the meeting room. If you've got that extroverted character, which is probably Meg, who's going to be the first person to put their hand up and shout something out, then that's going to happen. So I would love to see that small meetings do come back. Those large scale meetings are very challenging to do on something like Zoom, I would imagine, unless it was, very much a webinar style meeting. But those small meetings, I would imagine, are going to be quite key. And the social distancing element can come into it because, you will be more aware of your space, and there'll be smaller people in a bigger room necessarily that won't have to come in immediate contact with each other.
Chris, how are Conference Care thinking about the virtual future?
I think the virtual will certainly impact across the board on different things but I think that'll also be affected by the whole scenario of home working. So I think Zoom is all very good and interesting. I don't know if anyone saw that pie chart of people's attention during a Zoom meeting. So how much time you spend looking at someone's background or what they're doing and all of that. So it's all very well and good for that. You're going to lose that when people are back in offices, and I don't think people would be Zooming desk to desk so much. Also, there is a lot of, our customers have a lot of internal space that they're using within their offices for smaller meetings already. So that's certainly going to continue, and that's free for them to use. I think the impact will be on the larger events, particularly international events, as Lucy was saying, whereby you're going to see a reduction in physical delegates, I would imagine, at the outset of this, and more virtual. The key there, I think, will be the content, because we've all sat in conference rooms of 300, 400, 500 people, whatever, whereby you're sitting there and you're not really listening to what's going on. It's not hooking you. You're not getting that much out of the content. but you can't take that walk of shame from your theatre-style meeting to the exit door. Now, you're attending that event virtually, you can leave at the push of a button. So I think you would see that content condensed into a much smaller time and more kind of TED style talks in there, much less blather, I guess, at the end of the day, because you've got to keep that content going if you're going to keep those attendees online.
Definitely. And with the events industry as a whole, we're not just agencies, we're not just PAs, that there's a whole downstream of suppliers that have been affected by this. I mean, where would you rank it in terms of who will be the most negatively impacted from this pandemic? I'll address that to you, Torrie.
I think everyone's going to be affected. I think, you know, the big difference with this is that no matter what's going on in the world, if it's a war, it's in another country, if it's a flood, it's in another town, if it's, you know, you see a news story, it's always someone else's story. But it doesn't matter whether you are 9 or whether you're 90. It doesn't matter where in the world you live. And it doesn't matter whether you're self-employed, employed, a business owner, a small business owner or a big business owner. It has affected everybody in some way, shape or form. It will, of course, affect some industries more than others. But it's like anything else, you know, all the things you think that we've gone through, from, you know, going back to the smoking ban that affected pubs and clubs and bingo halls and bars and restaurants, to Brexit, to world recession. There's always going to be something. And unfortunately, I think in everything like this, there are some businesses that will come out fighting and there are some businesses that will fall, whether that be through their fault or just circumstances. But I think you've just got to keep on being motivated, keep being positive, and just keep on, you know, just be resilient. Whether, like I said, whether you're an employee or whether you're self-employed or a business owner, be resilient and just keep going.
And what about yourself, Lucy? I mean, do you see that there will be people more affected in the industry than others?
No, I think Torrie is absolutely right. And I also agree with her about the resiliency. And I think that the way out of this is to be agile. I think those of us that are relatively small businesses are very lucky because we're able to turn on a sixpence and you can look at things and you can try them. And the great thing with the virtual world is that you put something out and it doesn't work, you reinvent it and do something different. So, you know, to me, I think it's an opportunity for us to sit back and to look at our businesses, but also to try stuff and see whether it works. And no idea is bizarre, you know, right now. I think I've seen some really amazing things happening out there that probably nobody would have tried before because they would have been too worried, with others looking and thinking, really?
Any examples?
I mean, I'm sorry?
Any examples of those?
Any examples of those? I mean, even Dan's meetings, his Zoom meetings with 25 people this week, you know, which I took part in, where all the assistants were there and they were all able to ask questions. It was like celebrity squares, you know, everybody's in their little squares and everybody's chatting away, whatever. Well, you would never have thought of doing that virtually before, really, or, you know, making that a paid event. But actually, why not? If you've got somebody who's an industry leader who's able to talk and has interesting things to say and people want their time, let's go do it.
Definitely. I think definitely one of the things that I've been looking at is who has been innovative. And I mean, I'm sure like all of you, I've been getting lots of newsletters from destinations and venues telling me what they're doing in this crisis and that they're heartbroken about the fact that they're closing down, which is fantastic. But I'm sure that 90% of it gets lost in the noise. I mean, what advice would you give to people about the way that they can market themselves in a more tactful and, I guess, impactful way? Chris?
Yeah, I think the traditional e-marketing methods, they don't work currently, and I hate to see it. I have the pleasure of going through all the emails that get spammed that come into the company, and I don't usually do it, but I'm just looking after it for the moment, and that's about 20,000 emails a week. into our system. Usually I'm seeing it 50, 60 of the same thing coming through, totally irrelevant. So I've never believed that mass email marketing is a way to go. I think, as I really thought for the last few years, that it's all about network and it's all about what you can add to other people. I think when we come out the other side of this, there's going to be such a sense of pride and achievement to have come through. I think you can only, I don't know what you can equate it to, really just the world wars or something. I remember as a company, to do a little celebration, I was raising money for the RNLI. This is about 7-8 years ago, and they let us go and do a sea survival skills course at their centre in Poole. And you're basically put through an indoor storm when you're sat in a life raft, being blown about in a blackout with lightning, etc., etc. And they said, what you've got to do is you've got to keep everyone's spirits up. You've got to keep motivated. And so we were sat around in this little life raft, getting buffeted around, singing songs at each other, telling stories. It was 3/4 of an hour. It felt like about 8 hours. And then they simulate you being lifted out of that life raft by a helicopter winch at the end of it. And the feeling that we all had as a team after that, of actually feeling that you actually had survived something, was absolutely amazing. And I think that those personal contacts and reaching out to people and being available and being there to help them, and not trying to sell to them during it, but just reaching out to your network of people, whether that's on LinkedIn, which is a real predominant one for us, is going to be key. And people will remember those individuals and those personalities who were there for them during this.
And how do you, how specifically, I mean, without giving too much of away, just in case you've got competitors listening, but what would be a way of reaching out to somebody to reassure them at this time or help them out?
Well, it's interesting. We are seeing more people wanting to take video calls at the moment. Our sales team is still there for our customers, and I think it's giving them a choice. Some people would just rather have a quick email backwards and forwards. But it's the personal aspect of that, and we're known as a company that has great personal relationships with our customers. We don't just process their business. We do have those relationships, and we really care about them. So it's being mindful of how they would like to be communicated to, and I don't think really you can do other than perhaps on LinkedIn. You can't do that in a mass way. One of my guys was telling me this week that she'd looked through our contact management system, and she'd found 220 contacts of a company that we do some work for, and she set herself. She said, right, I'm going to go through as many of those as I can, just put a call into them, see how they are, see what they're thinking about, see if there's anything we can help with, anything just like she could help with personally. She didn't do the whole lot in one day, but she did reach out to over 100 people there. And I think it's that personalised aspect that's important to us. And yeah, you can still put content out at this time if you're thoughtful about it, and we do. But the personal aspect is king.
And Daniel, Lucy alluded to you as being a bit of an innovator at these times with your Zoom meeting. I mean, do you want to give us just an example of what you've been doing to get the PAs engaged?
I think what I've actually found really positive is that when we organise events, and I think Lucy will agree for PAs, they will come in clusters, or they'll come with another person from their office, or they might not have ever met anyone before. And you'll find, again, that you have different personalities in the room. But what I found, I haven't pushed people outside of their comfort zone too much, but I have, when we first started the Zoom calls, we went through every person, just said, how are you? Just tell us, how are you? What's your biggest positive at the moment? And what's been your biggest challenge? And is there anything that you can share? A lot of PAs or executive assistants work quite isolated. If they're supporting the most senior people in the business, they might be very isolated in the fact that they know a lot of information that other PAs in the business might not know, and they can't share that information. And it's very difficult for them to talk to somebody inside their own organisation. So it's actually been really good for them to be able to reach out and not share sensitive information, but be able to actually reach out and think, well, actually, no, they fully understand what I'm going through. We're all in the same boat here. And it was quite emotional. Some people had been made redundant. Some people were furloughed. Some people are still cracking on and working. And I think that communication, some people live on their own, and they said, I can't believe I've just got somebody to talk to that knows what my job is and what my situation is. And I think that's like Chris, and I think Chris Torie said as well, you've got to be I want, if this has helped give people skills in terms of networking and talking to each other and having confidence to talk within a group environment, and that's one skill, then great. If they've, I had emails from people picking up so much from what Lucy discussed with us on a call 2 days ago that they've implemented already, which is just fantastic. And it's just those little nuggets of advice and things that you can help with that will help people feel more comfortable, and hopefully you will be remembered then in times when, after this situation, we come through the other side.
Torrie, you said that you've been working on your business a lot during this period.
Yeah.
Why don't you give me an example of a couple of innovative things that you've been thinking about implementing, whether it be now or after the crisis ends?
So, we started off by sort of sending it out. We've always sent out newsletters, but we started thinking about the types of things that people would want to know about. People are getting 100 statements a day saying, we're closed down with COVID. So's the rest of the world. That's not innovation, and people just don't want that sort of thing. So we've been putting together a weekly newsletter, and it's had things on it like 5 date night tips. It's had like alternative podcasts that blokes can download for sport. It's had a mindfulness section with recommended books of the week. It's had things to do with your family, recipes. Our operations director has done a weekly video, which the first week he did a cocktail masterclass where you could make all your own cocktails, and then the next week was a virtual cheese and wine night, and we've held virtual ready steady cook nights with our members. We're doing a virtual gin tasting. We've done quizzes. We did a whole cheese and wine night, so we sent them a shopping list that they could go and get a couple of bottles of wine from Sainsbury's or Tesco's and get the cheeses to go with it. And even myself, our weekly communication with our members. Yesterday, I recorded a 10-minute personal video, which we literally just sent them on an email. And so it just, trying to keep everybody together. And every week we've taken a bunch of customers and we've just literally rang them and said, what can we help with? And that might be, so, their biggest thing, they've not been part of the club from a business perspective. It's very much a social club. But who can we connect you with? We've got a black book, of contacts. Who in the UK, what can we do to help? And I agree with what Daniel said. It's nothing to do with selling anyone anything, but when everyone comes out of this, people will remember the people that have been there to help them, and not the people that have been there to send them a "we're closed during COVID-19" statement.
I think it's fantastic how you've all been innovative in this. Lucy, you come from a bit of a marketing background as well, in marketing the magazine. First of all, what have you seen that's been really good at this time?
I think we're really lucky because when we first started out, I had no budget to do marketing. So the result of that was I really got to understand social media. And in fact, the only marketing that we have ever done, really, other than me being out there speaking, has been through social media. So, we have 55,000 assistants on LinkedIn in our group. We have 8,000 on our Facebook group and about 12,000 followers on Twitter. So to me, the money is very much in the conversation and always has been, which means we have communities that see us at the centre of this profession and ask us the questions. So we've been doing a lot of stuff around that, and very much actually, like Torrie says, doing things that are not necessarily the things they would expect us to do. So we have we actually ran a choir last night online. We have a lady that works with Gareth Malone, who we always have a PA choir at our conferences. So we had people from 33 different countries turn up last night to sing in a choir all together online, and it was wonderful. Danny McCubbin, who was assistant to Jamie Oliver, has been putting a recipe out every day that they can make really easily at home. But more often than not, what it's about is posting things that are going to uplift them. They're used to being part of this community, and sometimes it's about things that make them laugh, even in this situation, or things that make them feel there's hope at the other end, and also asking questions. So posting and saying, what are the things that are worrying you the most, and stimulating that conversation so that they all get going and are able to talk to each other. I love the fact that actually this is bringing out the best in each of them. And as an industry, the PA industry is very much an industry with a servant heart. So it's very unusual for them to be stepping up and putting themselves forward, but helping each other seems to be very natural. And it's a wonderful community to be involved in at this point.
Definitely. From looking forward in a couple of months, what would you say the main opportunities are going to be when we get through this? Daniel, do you want to start with that?
It's really difficult because it's a bit like, well, let's see which way the wind blows. But I like to think I'm quite a positive person. I like to see an opportunity, and I think I've always wanted to help people, so that has always been on the top of my agenda in any way. There's nothing actually more for me that makes me happier than to help other people. So if I can help other people in any way possible, then that really does make me happy. So I will continue to do whatever I can do in that sense. You know, we were supposed to be launching a brand new region this year in Wolverhampton, the Black Country. We've launched a virtual assistant forum. We are launching the PA Forum Mentor and Mentee initiative, which is something we've never had before, and that's been welcomed a lot. And I think it is just engaging, talking, speaking to people, and trying to bring those ideas to life. You know, we've had feedback, for example, a lot of the assistants have seen Lucy on the world stage, but the fact that she's actually, you know, taken some of her time to come onto a call with us in a more personal basis was just so much appreciated. The PAs really, really enjoyed that, and have that opportunity of having, you know, that more one-to-one interaction with Lucy, and they were absolutely buzzing afterwards, which was great. Torie, we've been to some of Torie's parties before, which has been fantastic. We've been invited there, and we've seen, you know, the type of parties that she holds, which are just awesome. Surprised I couldn't remember that one, but it was good. And Chris has supported us. You know, he's so supportive. His team helped to spread the word. They come to all of our events. Chris was a judge last year at the West Midlands PA Awards, and is again this year, and again has been really supportive. So this collaboration between everybody just shows that, you know, I think years ago people used to be very guarded about what they did and kept their cards very close to the chest and looked at what would be competitors. But I think if you feel really strongly about what you do, and you stand behind what you do, and you believe that what you do is right and that it's helping people, then there's nothing else really that you can think about.
Definitely. I think what I love about what a lot of you are doing is just giving information away for free. Like you said, not being guarded with it, and looking at things that, you know, how can you help other people now with the information that you're giving out, which is invaluable, really. Torrie, have you seen any opportunities from this going forward?
I mean, yeah, we're, like, as I said in the beginning, we're very much in the luxury end of the market. So our memberships start at £5,000, and so our sort of like lead time in terms of getting somebody to join and nurture it is quite lengthy. And what we've started looking at is where we can innovate with what I call stepping stones. So lower priced options, maybe a non-committal, different ways, different routes to market, so different ways of getting people to, because I know that people are going to be much more cautious with their money, and much more cautious to commit to things when we get out the other side. So we are launching a subscription-based wine club that's going to be £100 a month, and we're going to be launching a mini membership, so almost like a taster to get people in. Most of our clients tend to be those much more established business owners that have had their business for sort of 10 or 15 years, that actually now can take a little bit more of a backseat and enjoy some of the luxuries that running a business for that length of time bring. They haven't had to network for years, or they've got somebody else that networks for them because they've got a sales director or a marketing director. So we're looking, but now all of a sudden they know that their business has ground to a halt. And as Chris quite rightly said, it isn't just going to be a case of everything being released and everybody getting back into business straight away and your order book filling up straight away. So we're looking at doing ad hoc networking meetings. And so, like I said, we've looked at little mini stepping stones. So where we would never have looked at taking in £100 off somebody before, now we are. Because you've just got to look at things in a different way. If you can sell somebody something for £100, but you've got 200 of them buying it, it's exactly the same as one person buying something for you off £2,000. So that's the opportunity that we've seen of looking at our business in a completely different way.
Excellent. And Chris, from an innovation point of view, from an opportunities point of view, whether it be with conference care or the industry, what opportunities?
I want to take us the positives out of all this is that people like to be with people, and people like to meet face to face with each other. I think normally if we were doing this face to face today, it's 3:00, it's a Friday, we'd probably all toddle off, have a nice gin and tonic, wouldn't we? Which would be
what do you mean? I
believe it.
I would certainly add to the Zoom experience from this. I think it makes us all look at our businesses differently and how we are reaching out to people, and ultimately our customers are people rather than the overall corporate that they work for. I think it makes us look at different aspects of things. One of the reasons I was really interested to come on today is that we're thinking of a podcast and what that might look like in the future. So that was really interesting for me. The key points, I think, are going to be to stay agile, as I think Torie said, stay lean, last the first year past this, because there will be some organisations who can't do that. There will be competitors, our competitors, your competitors, who can't make it that long. And then look at what the new normal is. And I think we did mention sustainability in the environment. We've got a couple of projects underway there. And honestly, it's an area that we really seriously looked at and spent a lot of money on, had some great stuff going on pre-2008 recession. When was the last time that there was a lot of interest around the environment? And that's been building. Obviously, in times of hardship, it then slips down in priority for people. But I think that'll be seeing a resurgence, and that's what we're concentrating on for the year after.
And do you think people will still want to spend money on concentrating on the environment when their budgets might be tighter? Because typically, environmental issues aren't always cheap to solve.
I don't think they have to be honest. We did some work ourselves. We've been carbon neutral as a company for the last 10 years, not shouting an awful lot about it, but just quietly doing it. And do you know what? If you're careful with it and you're actually measuring what you're doing, it can actually save you money. And that goes with events as well. If you have a venue here and a venue here, which have got equal services that they're offering for your event, and one of them is operating in a much more sustainable way than the other, then you choose it. It costs you no more, and I see that as being a growing area for us to concentrate in.
Lucy, what have you seen in terms of opportunities for the future?
I think it's a kind of summary of what everybody has said this afternoon, which is that people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And to me, the whole premise around launching the business via social media was that because you were having conversations with people and they got to trust you, they would therefore be more likely to buy from you later on. So I think, last night when we had the choir, the number of people who were on that Facebook Live who were saying, oh, we just can't wait to see you all and hug you and actually see you face to face. So I think it's keeping the community going. I think it's coming up with new ways to introduce new product that puts that community at the heart of it. And then gently, as things start coming back, get the excitement going for us all to be together again and reintroduce events very softly, so that nobody is feeling that we're hitting them over the head to try and sell to them, but at the same time, the aspect of everybody being together again being hugely important.
Guys, I've really enjoyed the conversation today, and I think it's been really positive, and it's made me feel a lot happier for the future as well. Like Chris said, there are going to be tough times ahead, but there are lots of things to be positive about for the events industry. We've been in lockdown for about 4 weeks now, pretty much. And today it's the 17th of April, in case you're listening to this a bit later. Just briefly, what new skills or hobbies have you developed whilst in isolation in the last 4 weeks? Daniel, I'll let you answer that first.
Exercise. I've had a gym membership for 2 years. Oh no, I paid for 6 personal training sessions 2 years ago and I've only used 2. So yeah, exercise. I wouldn't say that's a skill, but my flatmate's certainly been making sure that I'm up in the morning doing my body combat and all of that. So,
oh wow, I'm not sure I want to live with him.
I've got downloaded a Spanish app, so I'm doing 20 minutes of Spanish a day. I know I'm going to come over and see Lucy when she gets over there. I've done a social media marketing course, which is just not my bag really, in terms of I'm not very good with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. So that's been really helpful. Understanding of digital marketing and project management as well for me. That's been something that I really wanted to do. But most of all, just communicate. I mean, I don't think I've ever spoken to my family more than I have now. I've spoken to friends that I've lost touch with from years ago, and didn't even recognise their pictures on Facebook. So it's crazy. It's been really, I have really, in a funny way, really try to take positive out of this situation as much as I can and try to make changes to my life. And one thing is for sure, I am not working the way that I was before all this was over. No chance.
In what sense?
In the sense of, sitting on your laptop and emailing people at 11 o'clock at night. And, I think we all got into that culture of, instant response and people needed to know. We do that on social media. I don't think, I do run a community and I also have a full-time job, but, I think this has really taught me that health and lifestyle and mental wellness and quality of life is really important. And that's something that I will definitely be taking with me, hopefully, once we're in a more positive environment.
Lucy, what about yourself? I saw you nodding your head there when Daniel mentioned the Spanish. Are you already a Spanish speaker?
Well, actually, we have a house in Spain, which is about 100 metres from the sea, and we were due to move there 2 weeks and 3 days ago, and all our stuff is already there on the back of a van, and they can't move it in. So it's all been a bit surreal, really, because we were due to be out of this house on the 10th of April. And we didn't have anywhere to live. So I have learned to paint because we moved into a house that is owned by our local church, and which was in a terrible way. But my husband is a builder and has taught me how to paint, so I've been doing lots of that at weekends. But on a business level, Microsoft Teams has been invaluable. We set up a network very, very quickly for all the speakers, because talking about events being decimated, I mean, I work with about 60 of the top speakers in the world for assistance, and their business just went straight out the window. And we've been running a training course once a week for all of them on social media, on how to use Zoom, on how to do selling for non-salespeople, all sorts of different things. But each week, one of the speakers takes a topic and trains the others, and then we have about half an hour of networking afterwards. And that's been just phenomenal. But I had no idea how to use Microsoft Teams. So I had to get one of our trainers, the amazing Vicky Sokol-Evans, to show us all how to do that before we started. And that's been a great new skill for me. It's got so much. Did you know you can do an event on Microsoft Teams for 2,500 people free of charge? I
didn't know that.
Yeah, really worth taking a look at.
Excellent. Chris?
Well, I think I'm into weird position. I don't think I've ever been busier than when I've been isolating at home. It's like yesterday and today, been back to back to back to back, which is great, all doing really different things. But I don't know if I've exactly had much time to hone any skills other than perhaps I would say that my coffee is now up to kind of fully fledged barista level.
And Torrie, I'll let you have the last word on that.
I think for me, like all entrepreneurs, you spend an awful lot of time chasing the money. And I think the biggest thing for me is that I have actually learned what true wealth is all about. And it is all about your family. Me and my husband, our son recently left home in the middle of last year, and so we've done lots of DIY projects, but we've really embraced the food. So we've gone organic shopping because we go to a farmer's market every Friday, and we've been cooking for each other and discovering new food. And obviously, as I said at the beginning, technology, I'd never been on a Zoom call. Everything I've ever done has always been face to face. And so it's been really embracing and learning all about technology and how that can help you, not just in your business life, but, family Zoom calls. And I know I've been the same as Daniel, reconnecting with people. So I haven't actually learned a new skill, like done a course or anything like that. But mine has been more about embracing home life than it has been spending 18 hours of the 24 that you're awake concentrating on your business.
Definitely. And earlier on you mentioned about humans being resilient, and I think also adaptable as well. I mean, the first week it was difficult being in lockdown, but now I think you just get into a routine, and when you have started to pick up new hobbies and things that you're working on, you just get into the swing of it, and I'm quite enjoying it at this moment. So I wouldn't say I want to do it for another 6 months though. And finally, what final word would you like to say to the world, people out there looking at this maybe as a crisis in terms of opportunities for the future? What would each of your final sentence or 30 seconds be? Chris, I'll let you start on that. Some words of inspiration.
Yeah, this comes back to what we've already, some people have already said, in terms of just be resilient, keep looking at new things to learn, change your business model if you need to, and if you don't need to, just hang tough for the next year. You can last it, and it will come back.
Lucy?
That's it.
Oh, I just think it's important that they remember that, yes, they are working from home, but it's not working from home in normal circumstances. So I've worked from home for 9 years. I feel like we're in this situation and it's totally different to normally working from home. It's all about connection at this point. Yes, but also be kind to yourself. Don't feel you've got to be working 24/7. Take time out, be with your families, be with the people that you care about the most, because tomorrow isn't promised, and if this situation has shown us anything, it's that. So love the people closest to you.
Torrie?
Don't forget, I think it's really important at the moment that people are appreciating not being as materialistic, spending more time with family and friends, spending more time with their kids, doing hobbies and things like that. But I would just say, don't forget this time, because it's so easy to revert to type. What I wouldn't like to do is, my only thing that I take out of this is the memory that in 12 months' time it'll pop up on Facebook and go, oh, remember COVID-19? I think if you have those new habits, new things that you want to discover and do, keep going, and just definitely don't forget this ever.
Daniel, the last word.
I think from a business perspective, I would probably say we'll get through this. I mean, we got through the ash cloud when I was in the Thomas Cook, when I was working for Thomas Cook, and had to bust my way over from Dover to Cyprus, which took me 2 days to get there. We had the recession, then we've had all of these, from a business perspective, these, horrendous things that we've tried to get through. But this is about human life, and this is about people. And, I think very much like Torrie said, I want to make sure that in 9 months' time, hopefully when we are through, the other side of this, that appreciation for life and living is there. And I've made a bucket list, an updated bucket list, which has some, places that I want to see. And I'm not saying now, I wish I could do that, or I wish I did do that. I will do that. And I think that's the thing for me that I will take away from this, is that I will have those things to look forward to, hopefully, and make sure that I live the life to the best that I can possibly be.
Thank you, everyone. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I do feel a little bit more inspired and a lot more positive now, and I hope everyone listening to this or watching it on YouTube does as well. And just finally, can everyone tell me where they can find a little bit more about yourselves, maybe on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, website, just your favourite mode of communication? Lucy?
I'm on all social media under Lucy Brazier, and the website is www.executivesecretary.com.
Chris?
Just at our website, conferencecare.com.
Daniel?
So I'm on all social channels, mostly probably LinkedIn, but our web address is pa-forum.co.uk.
And Torrie?
Well, our website is www.thepartnershipcollection.com. Either Torie Blythe Richards or the Partnership Collection are on, again, all social media channels.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gurmej. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening and watching. If you've got any suggestions or any feedback, then feel free to get me on Twitter at GurmejSP or Insta at events_Gurmej, spelled Gurmej. Thank you for listening. Catch you soon.